So yeah, it seems like we all seem to have this common thread of having limiting beliefs when it comes to money. You know, it depends on how old we are, but like some of our parents actually lived through the Depression. And if we think that, you know, all of our program we got when we were young and we were children, well, you got to remember that our parents also got it from when they were young, when they were children, so they got it from their parents, who got it from their parents, and so on. So, you know, it's very hard for most of us to have come through a childhood unscathed when it comes to limiting beliefs when it comes to money. And sometimes we don't realize, like I said, you know, we have these thoughts that we don't realize are actually sabotaging our success. So I wanted to share a couple of the top 10 money limiting beliefs, which is actually by my friend Joe Vitale. So money is the root of all evil. Okay, I think a lot of us have heard that. And the cool thing about this is sometimes it manifests in different ways. You know, like for me, I've shared with you how, you know, I did a process walking through like an NLP process with a friend of mine in Sydney. And she took me back to a moment when I was 5 years old, and I was at school and I was getting teased by the kids about my name. Now, my maiden name is Roloff. My dad is German. So the kids were like, you know, roll off the cliff and roll off the hill. And of course, you know, it wasn't really the teasing that bothered me so much because, you know, I was pretty proud of my name and proud of who I was. But I noticed it was the rich kids that were teasing me the most. So my observation is that if you have money, that you're not a nice person. And of course, I want people to like me. So the money is the root of all evil. That's kind of like, and when I would hear that, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like when we have these beliefs that we come on, then our subconscious mind starts gathering evidence that what we think is true. So I'm like, of course, money is the root of all evil, because if you've got money, you're not a nice person. So this is my 5-year-old reasoning of what's going on, and then that just gets stored in my subconscious mind as a belief. Another one is, if I am successful, people will hate me. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because you know, in Australia we have this thing called the tall poppy syndrome, and I think we actually inherited it from the English, to be honest with you. But this whole tall poppy thing is like, if you're growing a little bit higher than everybody else, you know, everyone likes to cut you back down and make sure that you're, you know, back down on the same level as everybody else. You know, I think you'll find, if you know any Australians, we're pretty modest people. You know, we don't like to toot our own horn too much, and we don't like to brag or talk ourselves up, because then, you know, it's like we're becoming that tall poppy. That's why when we came over here to the US with my movies, it was, you know, we were surrounded by people who were just really genuinely wanting us to succeed, which was a different environment for us. So that was really interesting. Which also goes to show you how important it is that you surround yourself with the right people. You know, surround yourself with people who, you know, are not going to pull you down, that actually will support you and build you up. I think was really important. Okay, here's another one. If I make $1 million, I might lose it, and then I'll feel stupid and hate myself forever. Wow, this is an interesting one, don't you think? You know, we've heard the stories about the people that have, you know, that have won the lottery and had all this money and then lost it all. And that's because, you know, number one, they haven't cleared the money blocks that they had, and they hadn't reset their money set point to, you know, be in alignment with this new amount of wealth that comes into their life. You know, and that's the thing, when it comes to wealth, and with us, you know, seeing ourselves with $1 million, or visualizing that, because remember, we want to be able to see this in our mind as often as we can. Remember, it's not the pile of cash that we're thinking about. It's not, you know, when we're visualizing, that's not evoking an emotion. It's what we're doing with the money. So the more that we can sit in that visualization of us in the future with that $1 million, or whatever that amount is for you, and, you know, I don't know whether $1 million is enough. I'm thinking we should go 10 million. I mean, why not? When you can see yourself with that amount of money, and then actually see yourself, how that changes your life, you know, how that changes what you do. You know, if you had that amount of money and you didn't really have to work, you know, what would you be doing? You know, what would you be doing with family? Where would you be traveling? What would you be doing with the money? So, you know, when you sit more in that, I think that that helps you to see how you would manage it in the future as well. You know, and the thing is, it's not just how we think about it, but the actions that we take. So just think about if I had $1 million and I didn't really know how to manage it, who would I seek out to be able to give me the right advice to be able to do that? Who would I be hanging out with? Who would I surround myself with again? That would be able to help me to maintain that level of wealth and to grow on it. So I think that's really important. This next one, it says, there's not enough money to go around. Here's the thing that we do know. There's always an abundance, and it's very easy for us to say, look, there's an abundance of everything, everything's flowing, it's all great. But when we don't have it in our reality, in our, like in our little sphere, we find it hard to believe. But the thing is, the abundance is all around us. We can, as long as we are resonating at the frequency of money, then we start to attract it into our lives, because it's flowing. It's energy that's flowing all the time, about how to become a vibrational match to money so that it's flowing into your life at a much easier rate. So the thing is, we all think we have to work super hard to be able to create money in our life, and that's not necessarily the case. Yes, it takes action, and yes, we want to have things that we're creating in our lives, but it doesn't mean it has to be a hard slog. And the thing is, if we can become that vibrational match to money, and we do that by getting into an abundant vibration, then what happens is it starts to flow to us much easier. Let's see. If I have a little more than I need to get by, someone else has to go without. Okay, so this is kind of attached to the previous one. We're like, if we have it, but somebody else deserves it. I used to find myself saying that. That was one of the limiting beliefs I had. Once I did this clearing with my friend back in 2008, I realized that was one of the thoughts that I was having. Look, I don't need it. Other people need it more than I do. Like as if there was a limited amount of it in the universe. It's like, okay, that's not true, because there's enough to go around for everybody. So that's not true either. Oh, if I have a lot more than I need to get by, then lots of people have to go without. Okay, which is connected. So if I have a little bit more, a few people have to go out. But if I've got a lot more, then a lot of people have to go without. And again, that's not the case. When we're talking about having this, knowing that there's an abundance and having this abundance mindset, for me, I think that the definition of abundance is being able to do what you want, when you want to, and have the resources show up as you need them. Now, that doesn't necessarily you need money to be able to do that, because things could just, pop up. Like, you could be looking for somewhere to live, and someone could go, can you come and live in my house for a month and look after my dog? So that doesn't actually cost you any money. Or you could have other things where people step up and go, look, I want to support you in this situation that you're in, and offer to do that as a friend. So you don't actually need the money to do it. So when you focus on abundance, going, you know what? I have everything I need to do whatever I want, whenever I want it, and the resources will just show up. Then what you're doing is you're surrendering, and you're opening up that flow with the universe. And so, yes, money may show up for you, but then other resources may also show up that will help you get to that result as well. So that's what's being in a true abundant mindset is all about. Okay, it is better to take less than to be responsible for somebody else's hardship. Ooh, that's a good one. So it's better to take less than to be responsible for somebody else's hardship. So what that's saying is that we'll feel guilty, because if we have money, it means somebody else has gone without. And when we see someone else that's poor, we take responsibility for it because we have it and they don't. Ooh, that's deep, that one. Because you think about the programming of what you saw in your lifetime or as a child for you to have that deep belief. And like we said, like some of our parents grew up in the Depression, or they were, immigrants into a new country, and some of them came over with a few coins in their pocket. I don't know if you had this, but I know with my parents, because my mum was one of 12 kids. So she was a country family, one of 12. She'd talk about how she'd walk to school, with holes in her shoes, and have a lard and salt and pepper sandwiches or whatever that was. So, you have this whole thing where you're going, okay, my parents went without, and they tell you how they were going without. And so you have this whole thing of where you feel guilty that if you have more, that you're taking responsibility for somebody who doesn't have it. So, ooh. Okay, number 8 is Democrats punish the rich. And number 9 is Republicans punish the poor. You know what? I'm not even going to go into that whole situation. I got to be honest with you. The political system in every single country around the world is is always perceived as either good or bad, black or white. I'm not even going to go into that conversation because it's way too big a conversation. But the thing, isn't it interesting how we have, if our parents had a certain political leaning, then we were, indoctrinated into the thoughts of that particular party. But yeah, let's not go there. So number 10 is, if I make a lot of money, I will be betraying my father who never made much money. Yeah, that's a good one too, because the thing is we don't want to show disrespect to our parents. And if we make a whole lot more money to them, you think, well, maybe I'm showing them that they're not as good as I am, or you have this belief that, that looking at that in a way that you're better than them. Which again, that's a really interesting way to look at things.